This is a top 10 app in India and other parts of Asia, and now it's coming to the United States. I don't know how you pronounce this. Likee? Likee has hired 100 people in the United States. The barrier to entry for, in this case, Chinese tech companies to come into the United States is basically non-existent. We're all familiar with TikTok, owned by ByteDance, the largest private tech company in the world. TikTok has been blowing up in the United States. It's a short form video content platform. And what is now announced is that their rival here is now entering the United States. It's YY and Huya, and they own different kind of content platforms, live streaming platforms, game streaming platforms in China and in Asia. And I don't know how you pronounce this. Likee? It's like with two E's. Whatever. They're coming to the United States. I guess they feel like now is a particularly good time to come. We've seen reports that Netflix is agreeing with EU regulators to throttle the quality of the video in Europe to try and keep the bandwidth in Europe functioning, because there's such a huge spike in video consumption in Europe. Similarly, we're seeing things like that in the US as well, but I guess I don't know. We haven't had to go to those degrees to throttle the quality of the video going through our pipes. Nonetheless, Likee has hired 100 people in the United States, half of whom are going to focus on content moderation. This is a top 10 app in India and other parts of Asia, and now it's coming to the United States. Now, this is a good example, right? If, let's say, Facebook wanted to go to China, Facebook would need to have all of its people based in China. Facebook would also have to comply with all of the Chinese government's rules around content regulation and moderation and all these other things. But this company is coming into the United States. They're hiring 100 people, right? But they have 4,500 people outside of the United States that are actually working in other parts of the business. So it's just another example of showing how the tech protectionism that China set up for particularly, nurturing its tech startup community going back, 10, 20 years now, right? The barrier to entry for, in this case, Chinese tech companies to come into the United States is basically non-existent. They've got 100 people here. Content moderation aren't very high paying jobs, right? I guarantee you the engineering, the product development, all of that is still based over in Asia and not in the US, right? Same thing with TikTok. There are some jobs here, but you don't have anywhere near the level of mandates, protectionism that China puts on US tech companies when trying to enter the Chinese market. You basically have none of that when Chinese companies want to come into the United States. Now, this is a free and open market and so on and so forth and all these other kinds of things. But you do have to ask yourself if we would like a fair playing field on both sides of the spectrum, is a heightened degree of rules and constraints appropriate for Chinese tech companies coming into the United States, just from a wanting a fair playing field standpoint, A. And B, when we understand the fact that pretty much every single tech company that is Chinese is basically an arm of the authoritarian Chinese Communist Party, CCP, and that all of the data in TikTok, there are many security experts that have analyzed the TikTok app that say it's extremely intrusive. It tracks your location and basically sucks all the data off of your phone, a bunch more data than it actually needs to actually serve its purpose of letting you surf short form videos. That's why you've seen the different military and DoD departments ban the ability for sailors in the Navy or Army members to have TikTok on their phones and still connect to the different DoD networks. So all of the data that a Likee, that a TikTok is collecting is going to be at the behest of whatever the Chinese Communist Party would like to do with it. We've covered this story many, many times in the past. So it all goes back to beg the question to say, should we keep no barriers to entry from Chinese tech companies that want to come into the United States? I think it deserves a once over, and I think it deserves some review. Just purely even if you take the national security risks out of the conversation, purely just wanting a fair playing field for U.S. tech companies to be able to go similarly and operate in China, which we all know is basically never going to happen. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.